Jones, look at that balance. Here comes the Cardinal blitz. Geno Smith, light spiral, intercepted by Tyron. We're back.
Well, it's Monday night, a new week has begun. I turn on
Saw that coming, and Daffy's coming over after getting that hand hit. And then Shaq Barrett plays, looking at that hand.
The biggest game each week is there.
The touchdown, we saw Philip Lindsay come off the field indicating an issue with his right hand. You can see right there.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? We're ready. Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. Hey, this is rockin' random, Hank. Ready to get the good time started.
Welcome to Are You Ready for a Podcast, the official podcast of Are You Ready for Some Football, Fantasy Football League. Our season is over. Once again, Hunter did not win the championship. Couldn't have seen that one coming. And yeah, so we're gonna recap everything. We welcome in Parker. Parker, how's it going?
It's good. It was a highly, let's just say it was a chaotic week as a commissioner, but it was also a very entertaining week. And the people out there really, I would say selfishly, I typically root for what's best for me. But once I'm out of it, I kind of just root for what's the most entertaining thing to happen. And I would say that I was not let down by this week. It was, I couldn't decide if I wanted Hunter to lose tragically or to finally get it done. But with the whole postponement of the championship game and the chaos of what would happen next, and then the way it came down, it was a hilarious and also thrilling ending. And so I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. So we're also joined by our new league champion, now two-time champion Morgan. So we're gonna, I guess Parker's gonna walk us through everything that happened over the last couple of weeks, and then Morgan will chime in. I'll chime in a little bit with kind of what we were experiencing with it too. But and then we'll just kind of interview Morgan regularly. So Parker, do you want to just kind of take it away from, I don't know, like last Thursday or last Monday, whenever you want to?
Yeah. So obviously, all of this started. So we went to Morgan's on Monday Night Football to watch the game. Morgan, had everyone over. Hunter was there, and it was going to be, and actually a really close ending. I think you and I, Joe, talked before that and said essentially that we both, I think, picked Morgan, but thought it was going to be really close. Morgan was
it was about as much of a toss-up as you could have gotten. Like Hunter was slightly ahead, but Morgan had the slightly better player. So
yeah,
I kind of lean towards Morgan.
Statistically, Hunter probably wins that more times than not, but not by a lot. It was very close.
Yeah.
But it was going to be exciting. It was going to be fun to watch. And so obviously, the unfortunate situation unfolded on the field. Thankfully, looks like the Bills player DeMar Hamlin, who's injured, is going to be okay. Which of course we're thankful for. But it was also a very very uncertain situation with his health. So that made it like where Monday night we just sort of left. We left Morgan's house. Everyone was sort of like watching, just like it was, it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in live television. I think y'all would probably agree with that. It was just like I really left thinking like this guy is dead. And fortunately he wasn't, but it was like, it looked like it when you're watching on the field. And so I wasn't really thinking about like, what are we actually going to do about this championship game until the next day. And then that day I kind of was just thinking, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait and see what ESPN says. And then when ESPN decided to just sort of call the game's final, it was, I felt like that was not a very satisfactory conclusion based on the fact that Hunter was ahead, and was probably favored, I would say, but not by enough to where I felt like it was out of doubt. And so I talked to you and Dan, Joe, about it, and we kind of talked through some options about what we could do. At that time there was some chance that the game would get replayed, so obviously we would have preferred to use that result. But then, as it became more apparent that it wasn't, we talked about just playing those two players the next week, or I wanted to obviously do the complicated thing as always and have some sort of composite metric of the projections and the substitutions and the player of the next week, which y'all quickly shot down. Or we talked about doing a Madden simulation. There was lots of things thrown out, but we decided that the best thing to do, and I think you, Dan, and I were all in agreement, was to like get the opinion of Hunter and Morgan, which was a little bit, of an odd position for them to be in because they're going against each other. And so obviously they each have their own interest in mind, but also the interest of like what's fair and what is a reasonable thing to do. And so we're sort of asking them both like, hey, can y'all agree on a compromise? And if not, of course, Joe, Dan, and I will make a decision on what to do. I think we had already decided before that our decision was probably going to be to just take the score of each player the next week.
Yeah, that was what I was leaning towards. Yeah.
But we hadn't made a formal decision. And so we wanted to let them do it. And so I texted them. I texted Morgan and Hunter, and the initial compromise was made, which of course involved Hunter being the champion and then splitting the pot of money, which I felt like was fair. And then of course they later decided to replay the game. So I guess we can kick it over to Morgan. First of all, Morgan, congrats on winning your second championship.
Thank you. I mean, I'm efficient when I make playoffs. Efficient.
Yeah, you're efficient. 2017 and now 2022. So two-time champion. And I guess, what was your perspective on what was going on? And were you just thinking that we would text y'all, or you were thinking we would just decide, or what was your perspective on the whole thing?
I had a feeling y'all would say something eventually. I was gonna ask eventually, like, later in the week, like, what are we doing? Because like once it got canceled, because I was like, I'm gonna wait till either the game's canceled or, ESPN says something. But I felt like I was gonna win on that Monday Night Football. Tia just caught that long pass. He's feeling good before he almost killed a man. I was only down like 3.5 after that catch. So it was like, that was one of the reasons that I didn't I accepted at first. I was going to take the half the money and then let Hunter have it, let him have his win. But then I thought about it, like that'd be kind of like a little Mickey Mouse move, like it went Hunter, like it would be an asterisk by it anyways if I let him do that. So then I was like, and it wasn't like we play for, we don't put in $200, right? Where it's like a significant amount of money for like, if it was like $1,000.
Yeah, it was gonna be. I think you were gonna split 150. Like it was $300.
Yeah.
We're gonna each get 150.
Right, exactly. So then I was like, you know what? I was just gonna do, T and Gabe, which I suggested, and Hunter's like, no, let's just replay the whole week. If he would have took that offer, he would have won.
Yeah.
But I get why he did it. I mean, I would argue if we played 10 times, those are the only 2 times I would probably beat him, honestly.
No, yeah, the logic's there. Like when you have, it's kind of like LSU and Alabama this year. When and when you're the underdog, you want to kind of just, and the game can be decided on one play or as few variables as possible. You want to take that. When you're the better team, you want more variables. So like it made 100% sense why Hunter wanted to do that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Hunter doesn't realize he's absolutely snake bitten in fantasy, and whatever he chose was going to go against them. So
I mean,
he got for him.
He got really unlucky with Justin Jefferson 2 weeks in a row. Just like combined like 7.5 in 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, and I think unfortunately Hunter was his PR team decided it would be best for him not to make an appearance tonight. But I think that was his logic, was like, look, Justin Jefferson just laid an egg. His team, Derrick Henry didn't even play.
Yeah, he gets Derrick Henry back.
Yeah, he's getting Derrick Henry, and you assume a good Justin Jefferson game back. And it's like, why would he not take his chances with that over like one player in one game? So I agree with you offering that, Morgan. I thought that was the better deal for you. And I thought Hunter made the right decision to say no. But I think so overall, was it, I can't remember exactly, was it you or was it Hunter that came up with the idea of replaying the game after the original decision had been made?
It was me, because I actually funny enough, Dan messaged me. He's like, you can't let him do this. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So then
I'm surprised it wasn't Nick.
No, it was Dan. And so I decided, you know what? We'll play it. If I lose, whatever. I mean, I had a feeling I was going to lose. I mean, I got lucky, even though like Jalen Hurts scored like 8 points, that Keenan Allen scored 2 touchdowns, didn't score a touchdown in like 5 weeks. So, I mean, I just got lucky. Cards right.
What do you think about the whole situation, Joe? What did you think about the original compromise, and what do you think about what was decided?
No, I was kind of with Dan. I was, willing to accept it if that's what everybody agreed on with, with Hunter, but it did feel anticlimactic. It felt a little dirty. Just Hunter like is so desperate to finally win a championship that he's willing to not risk, winning the $300 and the championship. He'll take 150 in the championship. So I don't know. It felt just very anticlimactic. Obviously, there's no real great situation. With what ended up with what happened on Monday, but I think the two options of replay the entire matchup or you do T versus Gabe. I think those were both very fair, and I think it was pretty fair of to let Hunter decide. Kind of like you were saying, he was probably slightly more favored, Parker, at least projections wise. So I was yeah, I thought it was a very fair outcome, and Hunter kind of got what he asked for. So
Yeah, I agree. I think the reason that I was so willing to accept the first compromise was A, because the two of y'all agreed on it relatively quickly, but then B, because I like the idea that in our league people would prefer to win the championship than money. So I like the idea of Hunter being like, you know what, I don't care about the money as much. I just want to win the championship. And I liked the idea of like Hunter finally winning one, but it being like a sort of like I like the idea of like him winning one, but then but that was always going to be like, I don't know if I would have recorded it as an asterisk, but like everyone would have known that. That would have been like the ultimate like Mickey Mouse championship. So that was entertaining to me. But then obviously to play it again, is the best solution, because there's nothing better than watching it's like watching a Monday Night Football game for the whole week. There's like one game to watch, and I'm over here scoring it on a Google Sheets document like a Neanderthal. And it was just like, and the game's like coming down to the wire. It's just absolutely electric. It's like this, the Packers aren't playing for anything. I don't think the Lions made the playoffs either. Or did the Packers?
No, the Packers were. The Packers are playing for the
Packers. The Lions are just playing
The Lions are playing for nothing, and then it's like, and it had everything. Like the game had everything you could ask for. It's like you have, it looks like all day it looks like Hunter's gonna win, and then Morgan gets the great Keenan Allen performance. Now it looks like Morgan's going to win after halftime, but then Hunter gets 3 touchdowns in like a 20-minute span. And then it looks like it's like wrapped up for Hunter. And then it was just, I guess now that we're past the decision, what was your thoughts during that whole process? As far as like, were you watching all day on the Google Sheets document? Were you like following closely with what was going on? Was it like difficult to figure out with me, like making up random projections as we go through?
Yeah, I was at the Saints game with my uncle, and I just like kept pulling up like the spreadsheet like every 10 minutes, just like trying to look, like my phone wasn't loading. And then I was watching that game. I've never been more stressed in my life, being up 33 at halftime, and then within like 5 minutes, I'm up like 10 points. I'm like, fucking Jamal, of course, a 6-yard pass to the 1-yard line. I'm like, well, there it is. Yep. And then they just, I don't even know. The Lions going for it on 4th down, like that pitch play they did on 3rd down. I was
hook and lateral, yeah. Friday Night Lights shit going on.
Dude, that was fire.
I want to say you were actually projected to lose for a large part of the 4th quarter, if not most of the second half.
Pretty sure I was, yeah. Because and when he
called
back
after the Jamal touchdown, right?
It was after the second one.
After the last one. But then Rodgers threw a pick on like the next drive.
Yeah, I was up 3 points, and then I was looking at Austin in our living room, like, we need an Aaron Rodgers pick, and he just like
got to within 1, didn't it?
I think it was like 2 or 3. No, it might have been 1, because then Rodgers threw the pick and it was like 3. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I want to say it was. The final margin was like just over 2.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't think Hunter got a lot more points from Jamal on the last drive.
2.16 was the final.
I think Jamal got
Jamal had like 8 or 9 rushing yards maybe on the last drive.
Yeah. So that's like 1-ish.
So it was 1 and then 3. Yeah.
I was so lucky.
And
but that guy, Aaron Rodgers, should have had like 3 picks that game though. Like there was like 3 separate times he should have been intercepted.
Yeah, I think ultimately Hunter's team did not play well. It's not like Hunter really deserved to win.
Neither of our teams played well.
This is what Morgan does. He mucks it up. He gets in the playoffs and he plays at a slow pace. He brings everything down, and Hunter's like scoring all these points all year, and Morgan made him grind it out, and he couldn't play that style.
Our best players were our defenses, basically.
Yeah, that was both y'all's evens is like had really good performances. That is
Yeah, I
actually
think I
true.
had 15 and he had 16 or something.
Those were the
Mhm.
second and third best players matchup behind Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of mentioned, you haven't been to playoffs a lot, but when you're there, you make it count. I think this was, if I'm remembering correctly, this was your first playoff. Or no, you were in there.
No,
You played one game in 2021,
Yeah.
but this was only your second playoff appearance since you
Yeah.
won the championship. But
Oh.
actually now, so between you, Joe, and Grant, y'all have the last 6 championships, 2 apiece.
No. Austin,
Austin, he had
Austin won
2017.
17. He won his first one before Austin.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
It's the last 7.
So 6 of the last 7.
Yeah.
And you also have 2 Haney Cups in that span. So
Huge.
4 of the last 7 years, you've won either the DJ or the Haney Cup. Some might say you're just a winner.
Look, we're not doing it in between. We're either gonna be terrible or we're gonna be the best. So that's all we
I
do.
respect the hell out of that.
Like, I mean, if I'm not gonna win, what's the point of being good anyways? I might as well get last place if I'm not gonna, at least make the
Especially
finals.
now, like for the most part, since you live in Baton Rouge, there's like an 80% chance that it's very easy. The last place
Yeah.
punishment.
I think
Well,
with the last, I think with the last place punishment, we just have to end it after somebody actually has to bring it out of town. Like I think we do it until somebody has to bring it out of town, and then it's like, all right, that's kind of the big payoff for it.
If
No, we
Nick
probably
had to
don't.
do it.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
If someone has to bring the trophy to Utah, that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Might as well make a trip out of it. I'd take a vacation for that. Just go skiing or something.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't be so bad. Like you could make like a summer trip. Like you could
No.
or a winter trip. Like you could just go to Utah, bring
Get the boys.
fantasy football trophy with you. The problem is like it's so heavy, you probably have to drive. Like or you'd have to check it as like its own bag.
And that's expensive.
Yeah, you might as well do like we did on ski trip and just like get 5 people and just drive up there.
Right. Yeah.
But then, like, would it fit with all your like luggage?
Someone's got to hold it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Presumably at some point in the year, Nick will be close enough that you could like meet him somewhere. Like he coached,
Yeah,
he was at the Bama game.
yeah.
That's true.
So
But what if he doesn't want to like drive it back? Is
well, I
that,
feel like
like-
if you give it to him, then that's like
yeah.
then your hands are kind of like washed. That's on him.
All right.
I don't know. Anyway, well, I guess Joe, you have any more questions?
No, just I think I think we're gonna talk to Zach about this later. Just after winning the league, you were very I think aggressive at the draft and then aggressive with trades, and obviously ended up panning out very well for you. I would assume you'll try to repeat that strategy as best you can next year, or we're gonna switch things up. Like what are we looking forward to in the off season?
I don't know. We're gonna give the boys a break. They well deserved rest. We're gonna party up a little bit. And then we come back and the trade. It's whatever comes. Whatever's happening in the moment. Whatever looks good on paper. But
That is
you
actually
can
true.
argue-
You won the championship. You made some big swings in the trade market this year, which is kind of a new thing for you.
I don't normally trade. I really needed an RB2, and I was like, let's just do me and Nick just agree on a 4-man trade, which in long term I won, but at first it looked like he won that trade. After that first week, it was like Devontae and AJ Brown both like scored like 60 combined or something. I was like,
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts turned out to pay off huge,
oh yeah, except for the finals.
except for the finals and the second last week.
Yeah, because he was hurt.
The entire playoffs, essentially.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, I don't know. I probably go similar strategy in the draft. I drafted some good people. I mean, Keenan just was hurt the entire year, but he was good once he started playing. But I feel like that's with Keenan every year. I feel like if you draft him, he's probably gonna be hurt half the year anyways. But I don't know. Maybe not draft Najee. I don't know. Maybe not do that again.
Yeah, God, he's horrible. What's your perspective? Not only to go to Alabama, but he's also just bad. What's your perspective on how this championship should be viewed in history? Because we alluded to the fact that if Hunter would have won this on some sort of weird compromise, it would have been highly questionable. But do you see this as like, is this an NBA bubble thing where it's like kind of a is this a legit championship? You had the second week, you were down the first week, or do you think that actually the fact that you had to negotiate with your opponent to even play the game and then go out and win it, does that make it better? What's your thoughts on how this goes down in the history of the league? Broad strokes, like we're talking 5-6 years from now, we're talking about on this podcast. We have you on the
Hall of
podcast.
Fame. We're talking about Hall of Fame resumes.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I think it goes down instantly as an ESPN instant classic. You know, like right there, you know, we have someone almost die on the field. You know, I was down like 3.5. You know, it was close enough that, you know, it's like a bubble situation where it's like you could argue that there's a high chance I could have won that. You know, if it would have ended, you know, we give Hunter shit, but he technically would have won, you know. But I think replaying it, like my team came out, and they beat him a second time. Like if he can't beat me twice, you know, convincingly, like if he'd have been up like 20 points on Monday Night Football, then we would have just gave him the win, right? We're not gonna. It'd be different.
Yeah,
you
that
know?
would have been interesting because at that point you could technically argue that it's within the realm of possibility you could have come back, but also it's not very likely. So like,
Yeah,
I
you have
think
to
you
argue
probably would
T
have had to
Higgins.
concede at that point.
You would need, you need T to score like 30
like Zach
points.
conceded, but that was like even he
Oh,
needed
yeah.
like 80 points from two guys. Like that's way out of the realm of possibility. But if it's like somewhere that's like realistic, like I don't know, that's a very gray area. But like we said, like it was about as much of a toss up as you could get.
Yeah, because like if he's up 20 and he has Gabe Davis, like I'd probably need like 30 from T, and then hopefully Gabe does terrible. And like I don't think T's even scored 30 points this whole year, so it's like could happen, but you know I think that would be more of like probably concede just to, you know, not just be a pain in the ass about it, and then have to like play the next week. And then if I did win, then I would have the asterisk, even though you know I was an underdog, so no asterisk here.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think
I
definitely.
mean, he was 23 the week before.
Yeah, I mean he scores a decent amount, but I don't think he had 30 the whole year. I mean I think he maybe got like
No.
25 or something, but
23 was his
You'd be
season
asking a
high.
lot if you're down by 20, but no, I think I agree with you. Instant classic. I actually now that you mentioned that, I kind of looked it up, and this is actually the fourth closest championship game in the last 5 years. We've had some really close championship games. You know, obviously the Philip Lindsay situation in 2018, and then last year was a 1-point game, and 2019 was a 1-point game. So, you know, by 2 points, it actually, you know, was our fourth closest championship game, but still really close all the way through. Really fun to watch. I had a great time updating the Google Sheets document with the like weird little feed things that are like constantly changing the yards and stuff. I don't know if you all noticed. I mean, I sent a message, but I don't know if anyone else would have noticed that I like went and changed Hunter's defense score like halfway through the game because I like was just double checking everything to make sure they were
I
right.
didn't see that.
But yeah, really close game, came down to the wire. But at the end of the day, you know, you went to the negotiating room. You came out with a fresh chance in week 18, and you capitalized on it. I think that should be applauded. So I think this may be the most deserved championship in league history.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's very deserved. But and
Had to come through the wild card round. I mean, nothing was easy about
started 0-3. I mean,
yeah. That's
Yeah,
right. People forget that you started 0-3 and won the championship. Zach started 3-0.
I was gonna bring that up.
dumbass.
So
I mean,
don't sell don't panic after 3 weeks is I guess the lesson here.
yeah, you just need your team to come back,
Yeah.
get healthy.
I think we do have to say, because you know we mentioned it all season. Nick and Dan mentioned it when they guest hosted. Nick was right. Hunter is absolutely a fraud. He has now lost five championships, 5 championship games. Parker, where in the absence of Hunter not being here, where do you think this ranks in terms of the brutal losses Hunter suffered?
So I almost think this might be a bold take because we're a little bit removed from it now, but you could almost argue that this is worse than the Philip Lindsay situation. And
yeah, it's more unique.
Like I think the Philip Lindsay situation, is obviously like terrible. Like to lose a game by 0.3 when a guy gets hurt in the third quarter and you were certainly going to win is disgusting. But the thing about this one was that he had an agreed deal to make him the champion. Like I think I sent a picture in the group of like congratulating Hunter on winning. Like the confetti was falling. The fat lady was singing.
This Dewey defeats Truman.
Hunter let his pride get in the way. He didn't want the asterisk, which I don't blame him for.
No.
But he said, you know what? I'm going to give the boys a chance. And then they blew it in a still heartbreaking fashion. Like it wasn't like it was a blowout. I mean, it was like a back and forth game. Looks like he's going to win. And then the back-breaking interception. I mean, I don't know. I think we'd have to ask Hunter if this is worse, but it's a debate. Like the 2 worst championship losses are certainly Hunter's 2. Like
Yep.
the last year, Grant losing by 1 is nowhere near this bad, in my opinion.
And he really lost by 3 because
Right, because
I guess same with Hunter. Oh, I guess same with Hunter this year.
yeah. But like just
Yeah,
the way
that
it
was very
played out is
yeah.
it's not only fraud behavior, but it's just like, I don't really, like I said, I'm not really rooting for someone to win or lose in this championship game, but like you have to feel for Hunter a little bit with the way like Morgan, do you feel bad a little bit about the way it
I
played?
did. I did. After I won, I was like, I'd be pissed if I was him because like he only need 3 points and like Aaron Rodgers throws an interception. Like all he has to do is get like 30 yards and like I got past to Aaron Jones, right? Because he had Aaron Jones like literally like 2 passes and he could have to Aaron Jones and he could have won. It's just like his quarterback threw, and then the Lions just hate the Packers, so they just went for it on 4th down instead of kick a field goal. And then
That's right. I completely forgot about that play. Like I was like, because it's 3rd down, you're just like, oh, they're gonna kick the field goal, whatever. And then you're like, oh shit, they're going for it, which was the right decision, obviously. But like, man, that just is.
Yeah, because like, they don't get it. They don't get that 4th down, or they kick a field goal. Then like Aaron Rodgers has time and probably throws some check downs out of some out routes to Aaron Jones or something, and then
or just picks up 60 yards passing. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because they were on like the 10-yard, like the 15-yard line. So yeah, I mean to get to field goal range, but it's just like anything could happen. And then Lions just DJ Chark, LSU boy, caught that pass for us.
Yep.
That was.
It was a fun season, Morgan. Congrats on your second DJ. You now join the pantheon of 2-time champions. That's rarefied air up there. So we'll be back and ready next year. I guess you'll be studying all year with that first pick in the division draft to decide.
I haven't got to pick a division yet. It's gonna be
decide which direction you want to go. But yeah, congrats again on a great season and a well-deserved championship win.
I think I have to take Hunter. I think I have to put him in after I beat him.
No. Hunter's
Hunter's one too. Yeah.
Hunter gets the.
I would respect the hell out of that. Although I don't know if we expand to 14, maybe the rules change.
We'll have to say.
Are we thinking about expanding the 14?
Well, we wouldn't have. If we did, we wouldn't have 3 divisions because I don't know if you knew this, but 14 not divisible by 3.
True.
Yeah, everyone would just have to pick one rival.
We have to do the guillotine strategy. We have to have 16 or for something or 15 or some shit.
Yeah. No, I want to expand to 14. I don't know if anyone else does, but I want to.
It would definitely make the drafting more interesting.
I think I was talking to we preview. We may talk about this later in this podcast. But I think if we did that, we would definitely have to get rid of the second flex. Because it would be like low scoring, and it would just be like you'd have the problem, but you'd have a lot of just bad teams. I feel like just like really bad teams. Like we're starting like Shane Zystra in our second flex or something like that.
Yeah, literally.
And we maybe have to do PPR points per first down, like something like that.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's not off the table.
I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I'll do whatever I want.
Obviously, you agree with the money needs to go up next year.
Yeah, I think 50 or 75 or whatever. I mean, I think now that most of us, have jobs and we're making money, that it's not like, back when we were in college and people weren't like working and stuff, sure, like trying to pay $50 for it doesn't seem that great. But even though it's, because I was against it, but then thinking about it, it's like I'm paying $50 like one time. I might just lose $50, but I gamble now. I'll lose more.
This is the first time where I've had like a lot of times during the year that I'm sitting there thinking like, man, I spend the better part of 4 months stressing about this, and it's like it's for $25. Like this is just like,
yeah, like I'd be fine doing even like 100 or something. I mean, depending on what people agree to. I mean, we've all been in the league like long enough now that like people care about like this year. Like no one was like not setting their lineups, for not paying attention,
right?
We're not trying. So I mean, and I think if you raise the money, people might try even harder. Whether it be like trading, making trades, or doing something.
Yeah, maybe. But I think because we started in high school for no money, I think that's why. Like, I think like with Hunter, like he didn't really care about the money. Like, I think I don't really care about the money. Like,
I don't really care about winning the money, but like it wouldn't, it definitely would be nice to like.
Yeah, no. It's like, I think that's a natural evolution, but it is nice. That, it's not. It's nice that like I think most of the league, that's not what they primarily care about.
Oh no, but like if in that situation, if we pay like $100 something and it was like a $1,300 pot or something, or 1,200, right? And then me and Hunter decide to split, I might have taken that if it was like a $600,
Right.
versus 150.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
I
that
mean,
makes
it could
sense.
change things.
Other
But
than, I mean, I do think this was a very unique situation that maybe we
Yeah,
have to
probably
put in
won't
some
happen.
language in the Constitution coming up for scenarios like this, but I don't
I mean,
anticipate to see many.
I hope it never happens again because Week 18 football sucks.
Yeah.
Half
Yeah.
the people don't play. They leave it like the Keenan Allen. I got lucky. They literally took out Justin Herbert, and Keenan
Well,
Allen was
there
still in the game.
There were reports that they were gonna like maybe not play him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he just plays the entire
Crazy,
game.
yeah,
like-
were they were like locked into their
yeah, like
like
in the fourth
playoff
quarter,
spot.
they
Did
took
you
out
consider
Justin
not
Herbert.
playing him, Morgan?
I thought about it, but then I was like, it's either him or like Jahan Dotson. I'm like, even Keenan playing like half a quarter, like first, second quarter is probably gonna get me more points if he gets like 7 catches. But like I didn't get it because like they took Justin Herbert and Eckler out in the fourth quarter, and then Keenan just still in the game, and then just catches a touchdown. I was like, why is he in the game?
Yeah, that was pretty damn wild.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad performance by both of us. Between our receivers, like Debo, terrible. J Jet's terrible.
Yeah, Hunter's getting those back to back.
No, it was an ugly game. It was an ugly game for sure because it was 90 to 92, and that's with the defenses scoring 30 of those 100 or 180 points. So the rest of the lineups were.
I kind
struggling.
of forgot, like whenever I beat Ben like 60 whatever, like God, imagine how bad our team, like the scores, like everyone on our team scored like 3 points apiece, like 4 points.
Yeah, that was the
awful.
all-time low scoring final.
I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, that was insane. The league used to be chaos.
Oh yeah, I mean we definitely scored less points then. I mean, you said scoring was down this year, right? Like overall.
It was, but it wasn't like 2016 levels. I think it was down to maybe like 2018 levels. But also, like, we used to be standard. We used to not have all the PPR stuff, and we used to not have the second flex. Like, the rules were different. I mean, it wasn't like it was. Now,
Yeah.
I think at the very beginning, there was weeks where people just didn't set lineups, which is why you have the 24 to 27 week or whatever what it was with Thomas and Tyler Shipley the first year. But yeah, let's see, 67 to 65 was that score. 2016 championship. Morgan, your lineup was Tom Brady, Ryan Matthews, Bilal Powell, Julio Jones, Michael Crabtree, Delaney Walker, Julian Edelman, Seahawks defense, and Dan Bailey.
Interesting lineup there.
Wall
But
Powell and Ryan Matthews, man, what a throwback!
You had CJ Fedorowicz on your bench.
who? I don't.
Let's see. Ben's lineup. Let's just roll through Ben's 2016 championship lineup. Was Andrew Luck, pour one out. DeMarco Murray, Darren Sproles, Amari Cooper, Demaryius Thomas, pour one out. Hunter Henry, Taylor Gabriel, Titans defense, and Graham Gano.
That team sounds significantly better than mine.
I can't believe Ben didn't win with Taylor Gabriel getting matched up against all those linebackers.
And then and he had, let's see, his random bench players were Kobe Fleener and Matt Asiata. So
wow. Throwback.
Rashad Jennings is a throwback.
See, I don't I don't remember like anything from that 2016 season. Like what was my record? I don't even know what I went.
You were 8-5.
Okay. Not terrible, I guess.
Yeah, I mean you fought through the loser bracket that year too. So wait, no, you actually didn't. Somehow you got a bye with that.
It must have been a down year for everyone. Everyone just sucked.
Yeah,
Yeah, 8-5 used to get. It used to be.
Well, I guess 8-5 is not that bad.
Yeah.
No,
8-5
it's not.
When you had like we had a lot of like.
That year, Ben was 9-4, and then there was 5 teams at 8-5. So.
No, yeah. So everyone just 8-5.
Regular season champ. All right.
And then
All right.
I was 7-6 and missed the playoffs, being 2 games out of first place.
That was funny as hell.
And I was 3rd in the league in scoring, and then I scored 150 points a game in the playoffs. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, you would have beat.
Was that the year that I had Le'Veon and David Johnson?
I think so.
And the year that we did the trades and that for the draft pick trades, and then the league didn't like it, so we reversed them.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was funny.
And the league, and I think you played Ben in week 13. And if you had beaten them, we would have had 7, 8, and 5 teams, and I think you would have still been left out.
Yeah, that's correct. I still would have been
Yeah.
left out.
Left out of the playoffs at 8 and 5.
Jeez, that's unlucky. God damn.
Damn, Grant
I mean-
was 2-11 that year, and
It felt
everything's gone up for him since.
Yeah.
It felt like this year the league was pretty, like everyone like felt like they could like beat anyone almost besides like Hunter's team throughout the year.
Yeah,
But
we had
like,
a ton of parity outside of we had Hunter and then Thomas at the bottom, and then we had a ton of parity in between.
yeah, I feel like a lot of us were all like around the same records.
But I mean, we
Yeah.
have that's been what it's been recently for the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Last year it was like Grant and Morgan and Colin all.
Well,
like
like
10
I think
wins.
Hunter's this team, the Hunter's team this year, you could argue was like one of the best teams.
No,
we've
I know,
played.
but like last year we had 3 double digits.
Yeah, I had, like, 10
and then
wins
a
last
couple-
year,
I think last year it was not as much parity.
Maybe.
There's always a little bit in the middle, but this year it felt like more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there were 5 teams one game out of the playoffs. So
Yeah.
yeah. I forgot that I got like 10 wins last year. Sheesh, back-to-back years, doing well. That means we're due for a down year, boys.
yeah, last year was your only year with positive luck in the regular season in the last 5 seasons. So you might actually be due for some luck. Really
I
good.
mean, this year I was like dead even. Like I wasn't like there wasn't like any luck. It was just like
You were actually negative 1 game. So
dang.
Look at that.
Yeah, I was looking because like I was looking at like the top like 4 or 5 and like with like Joe and like Grant, like the last like 4 or 5 years, like all just have like green, like plus like 2 or plus 3. I'm just like, yo, where's mine? And then you have like, I mean, Austin's had some pretty bad the last few years.
You-
too. I'm like,
Do you do the luck rating in the playoffs?
no, it's only for regular season.
Because
It's
Grant
hard to
would
do in the playoffs because there's not as many teams playing.
Yeah.
I mean, Grant was easily the most fraudulent team this year. Easily.
I mean,
How many
when
wins
you
did he have? Like 11?
when you throw around the F word, though, there's one team that comes to mind. It's not Grant.
Oh, well,
Well,
right,
yeah.
but Hunter beat people by a lot of points. Like Grant didn't score like over like 90 points for like 5 weeks straight.
Yeah, no,
And
yeah,
how many did he win all 4 of those games? He went like 4 and 4
Oh
and
yeah,
0.
yeah. It's statistically the luckiest season of all time.
yeah.
Oh.
Grant had an absurd season. He won 4 games more than projected from his record, which is like outrageous.
What is his record? What was he? 11 and
No, he's 9 and
He's finished 9 and
4.
5.
9 and 5. So he should have been 4 and he should have been like one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, he was projected the second lowest wins. in the
Yeah.
league.
Fantasy Pros had him as like a bottom 3 team all year.
That's crazy. Fantasy Lux is different. Actually, I always forget about Fantasy Pros. I don't look at it like at all during the year and see like what I was.
So like, let's see. In the league, we've had 142 seasons, and he was the luckiest individual season. So that means he's like that's like his luck was like a first percentile outcome.
I wish. Every time I play someone and I'm like, my team scores like 70, I lose like 130 to 70. It's like it's not even close.
Last year you were lucky, but other than that,
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
been unlucky largely.
I think I scored. I wasn't like terrible. I mean, I was like probably 5th or 6th in scoring last year. I wasn't like terrible, but like, I definitely did get lucky.
Yeah. Well, I think the what you need, like the ultimate dream season, which is like, was basically Hunter this year. He's like, you have a really good team and you have a little bit of positive luck. Like,
Mhm.
because, like if you're like me, where you have a little bit of positive luck, but your team is like not that good, then like it doesn't really, like you just end up middle of the pack. And like, if your team is like, but it's like if they are add together, so it's like they can obviously cancel out very easily if you're like
Yeah.
in the middle. But if like you're a little bit good and a little bit lucky, then you like pretty much get a bye.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter drafted Jamal Williams just like steal the draft. Like Jamal like did so much work. I mean, 17 touchdowns. I mean, geez, that Justin Jefferson, and then you have Derrick Henry. It's like,
I mean, I think Jamal Williams and Josh Jacobs are like the 2 best picks of the draft.
I am Josh Jacobs, yeah, because like, and you know what's fun? You know what's fucking hilarious? I had Josh Jacobs for like 4 previous years straight, and he never once did remotely that good. He was awful.
Yeah, absolutely wild. Fantasy football is extremely unpredictable.
It is. That's true. I was like, yeah, because I remember last year I drafted Joe Mixon, and he had been terrible like the 2 years before that, or like the year before that. I remember I was talking to Pap and everyone. I remember him just being bad the year before, and then he just like, I mean, he carried me last year. I mean, he scored a shit ton last year.
Okay, before you go, last thing. Man, I can't remember what your team's called. I'm trying to find Morgan's first. Okay, the first player Morgan drafted, he had the 11th pick in 2011.
Well, he didn't
Okay.
draft him. You draft no, he didn't.
Well, he got
draft
auto drafted, but like the first player drafted to Morgan's team, the 11th pick in 2011. Morgan, it was a Jacksonville Jaguars running back.
Oh, that you gave it away, right?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
You should recognize the name.
Well, I'm thinking. Okay, I don't know. I'm thinking of it, but I don't know if it's right.
I'll give you another hint. This is a easier hint. He has a double last name.
Okay, so it's Maurice Jones-Drew, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, but I was like, I don't know, but that would make sense. 2011.
The first
How do you
pick in
get it?
franchise history, Maurice Jones-Drew.
I wonder how he did.
Joe, do you remember yours?
Yeah, Jamal Charles, and he got tore his ACL in week 2, and I was really mad at you.
That's right. That's correct. All right. Well, I think that's enough for this year. Like that's a good cap for 2022. Is Joe complaining about a guy tearing his ACL in the regular season in 2011.
That is the last time I got unlucky.
True. Well,
yeah. So it was a fun season. It was the most you can ask for a season is to get a dramatic championship game, I think, and we very much got that. So thank you to Morgan for joining us, and we will now be joined after the break by the Haney Cup winner, Zach. So join us then. Welcome back. We're now joined by the Haney Cup winner or loser, depending on your vantage point here. Zach, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. For being the last place finisher, can't get much worse.
Yeah, so I guess we have to get into that. You get last here. Fortunately for you, it's our first year of a pretty easy punishment for you, considering Nick or Thomas or Grant didn't win the league. So you just have to bring the trophy from my house to Morgan's house, which is like a 3-minute drive. So but we have to start, I think, in the Haney Cup final. You just get your doors absolutely blown off by Nick. A really disappointing performance by your team. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I feel like down the stretch, like I almost go back to like the end of the regular season, like down the stretch, my team just like could not post like points. Like I couldn't get a win, couldn't buy a win. And then I go and I see like the standings and I see like the tiebreakers and I'm just like, okay, like I'm getting to buy. Like and it just felt like it. I was like, I'm probably going to the last place game. Like I got one less chance of like trying to win and get out of it. And then I think even on Thursday Night Football, I set myself up like Dak, terrible game. I have a quarterback and he has like a defense. I think he had like a defense and like a tight end, and he just kills me
Yeah, he had Schultz.
already.
Yeah.
So the good stuff
Yeah.
Dak even did, like I think Dak was like the perfect what do you call it? Like mine player or something. Like someone just dropped him for agency. I'm sitting there like, oh look,
I did, yeah.
Prescott. I can pick him up. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna be good. Terrible.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So you kind of bring up the at the end of the season there. So you you start 3-0, then you go on a 3-game losing streak, then you win. So you're at 4-3. You then proceed to lose 5 of your next 6. And that just about coincides. I guess that last 3-game losing streak from weeks 11 to 13 basically coincides with the acquisition of a certain quarterback in Cleveland that came into the locker room. Just take us behind the decision making process there to acquire said player.
Yeah, I think my team was very much like it needed a jolt because I had like Dalvin Cook, I have a Barkley, I had Diggs, like I have like the kind of star players of my team, but I just couldn't like really get a good quarterback. I think I had Brady at one point, Rodgers. I was just going through like all the big names. Someone's gotta turn out good. And then like all the different flex options I tried just weren't consistently producing. Like, and near the end of the season, I looked at my team and I felt like I was like, oh, I guess I got to start Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Like, and they have a rookie quarterback. It felt pretty stupid. But picked up Deshaun Watson, thinking, oh yeah, maybe he could be like the miracle man for the team. And then it just became like this thing where not only did he do bad, and I think like the one or 2 weeks that I started him, Dak had like a really good game. And then like when every time like I switch it back, it just would like backfire on me.
And when you have 2 QBs, you don't have one.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like especially when one quarterback basically comes back almost as if he hasn't played in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And then the other one comes back after like missing 5 games and he acts like he's never played football at all and just makes the Cowboys look terrible. Like
Well, the league in interceptions.
like that like I
Did he
mean
really?
I think
yeah,
so.
he
And he
tied
missed
for the
5
lead with
games?
David with the
Yeah.
craziest thing, like the epitome of like Dak Prescott is that just last week they have a play, it showed on ESPN where he goes to throw like a little out route and the defender would have had a pick six and he fell down. So you know what Dak Prescott does the very next play? He throws the same exact out route to the same side and the dude doesn't slip and fall this time and takes it for a pick six and they beat the Cowboys. Like it's just a joke. Like,
Dak Prescott and Davis Mills tied for the most interceptions this season
That's
with 15.
incredible.
that's insane.
He missed 5 weeks into the most picks in the league. That's insanity.
He had to really try to get that
How
one.
many did he throw?
15.
20, 15.
15 in 12 games.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's like some
He
19.
threw one like I think he threw at least one like every game after he came back. Obviously, like if he was gonna, throw that many.
Well, my question, Zach, is so obviously, there was some discussion in the group me about how exactly the tiebreaker gets calculated because one way or another somebody here is going to get screwed based on the fact that everyone in the Haney Cup was 7-7 besides Ben. Or no, not besides Ben, besides Thomas. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the way that played out with the tiebreaker shaking out that you ended up getting the last seed based on some weird head-to-head math, even though you were, 1 game out of the playoffs?
So when I saw that, like I don't even like I think I was like looking at my like own matchup, and then I was like, whoa, like that many teams finished with that record, and it was so shocking. And like I said, it's like once I realized like, well, I'm like I get the bye, like I'm one of the last 2 teams just because of like tiebreaker luck. Then on top of that, I'm thinking like, well, at least I get to play like Thomas in the finals. His team, like he's the true like worst team in the league. And then he wins, and then it's like, well, great. Now I have like an actual tough matchup in the like like it just like all played out like perfectly wrong for my team.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it definitely this was one of those years that like some years there's, a couple of bad teams that just have like sort of given up. But this is one of those years where it was like there was so much like I mean, you could easily argue that I had one of the worst teams in the league, and yet I'm in the playoffs, and you're getting a bye.
Grant, I think had the second
Oh,
worst
yeah.
team in the league. And
Yeah,
was
that
the second
that
seed.
blew my mind when I saw that, like just by accident, because I was looking up, like I was sorting by like points scored, and I'm like, wait a second, like he just had a bye in the playoffs, and I've never seen that. Like I've seen it the other way, where like you got the guy that like finishes 7th, and he's like, I scored the 3rd most points, and he just got screwed all year. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen someone like score the 2nd least amount of points and somehow win. Like he won, I think you said it, like he won like 7-1, and he didn't finish in the top half of the scoring for the entire second half of the year or something.
Yeah. I don't think he finished in the
Yeah.
top half in the league and scoring it after week 3 or something like that.
Oh,
And he like
that's insane.
yeah, and he had like
he
some
almost made the
outrageous-
final. He was like a couple points from making the final. I think he would have lost in the final to Hunter. So another bad break for Hunter. But
Crazy.
yeah, I guess your draft strategy this year. I think me and Parker. I don't think we dislike the draft strategy, but just throughout the season, we were a little low on your team because you just couldn't find kind of depth around your top 3. like you mentioned having to start 2 Steelers receivers down the stretch, which is never ideal. You know, do you have thoughts on that strategy? Or are you going
Yeah.
to try to repeat it next year? Are you going to switch some things up?
So I want to try to get fully back to what I did the first year of the auction draft, which was go like receiver heavy. I just think like in the auction, there's a fine line of like making sure you're like not sitting back and hold on to too much money. But I feel like because 2 years ago I spent way too much money on running back. So this year I tried to like tone it back a little bit, and I got like a Stephon Diggs, but just like looking at like I mean even in like the last place game, even though it was like for 12th and 11th, like the when I was looking at the other team, I'm like the receivers. I like when I looked at the matchup before the games even played, I was like I might be screwed because like and then he benched Mike Evans, but I'm thinking like oh like still like he had 4 good receivers and then still had like Zeke and like another decent running back. I think just the fact that there's like that extra flex, it just is really important to try to get some depth like in draft day. Like cause you really it's hard to find it during the year, it seems.
Yeah, I agree. I think you know because I initially thought if I'm being frank that switching to the auction draft would benefit the people who pay more attention because you can you'd be able to get value a little bit easier. But I think what's turned out to happen is that in the auction draft you get a lot more like pretty even teams. And so the teams who miss out on the top talent just load up on the depth. And so it's like you can't have both. Like it's nearly impossible to come out of the draft with studs at the top and good depth. Like you sort of have to pick and choose one or the other. And so you have like really balanced teams across the league, which is obviously what we saw this year. And honestly, Thomas didn't even have a bad draft. His team was so bad because all his running backs got hurt.
Yeah. Well like one thing I would like I do agree, I guess.
And he
Like
didn't
you make a
in-season
good
manage.
Yeah, you make a good point about the balance, but like I would almost say, I mean, this could go hand in hand though still, because the results are more balanced. But like I feel like auction draft leads to like so much more variance. Because like in a snake draft, you could be having a terrible draft, but you really like unless you just go outlandishly off the rails, you're gonna be picking from like the 3 or 4 players around where your spot is, and
Yeah.
you should normally like if as long as the rankings aren't like terribly wrong, you should be okay. Whereas in like auction, you can really you can really mess your team up. Like you can really mess it up like very bad.
But I thought that, and like Ben's team wasn't that bad this year, and neither was Dan's, who were the two teams that I thought were like after the auction. I was like, what were they doing? But I think you're right because we have the extra flex. It's like having just random guys to plug and play that are like actual startable players makes a huge difference versus like you're out here starting George Pickens and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
Who's, like, between the two of them is like, well, shit. What am I supposed to do here?
Yeah. I think one thing I really like about the extra flex, and I feel like more leagues and like things should adopt it, is because like in a normal like 2 running back, 2 receiver, and 1 flex league, you are kind of stuck. Like even if you want to trade a lot, like if I go trade certain positions, I have to like get a position back in return to be able to start that thing. Or like if I draft really well at running back, all I get out of that is like either depth or some trade pieces. But
Yeah.
like with extra flex, you can build your team, however you want to build it, and you can trade for certain things. I'm surprised it hasn't let it's I feel like trades have happened less since like and it's just coincidence to the auction draft, but I feel like it should lend itself to more trades like the extra flex.
I actually thought this year
I thought there's been a decent amount of trades.
like it's always hard because most people I think that once you have a player, you tend to be like optimistic on that player.
Right.
So it's like you don't want to trade them.
Yeah, I
And-
think like or you can keep going.
Well, I was gonna say like, and sometimes like in a regular league, it sort of forces your hand a little bit where you don't have the extra flex because it's like, oh, I have to get a running back to start. Whereas in our league, like I feel like there's very few times where I'm like, oh, I really need like occasionally I'll be in a position where I really need a tight end, but then you can obviously just stream someone. But like a running back or receiver, it's like you almost always have flexibility to play either position if you need to. So you don't like you're not forced to trade for that, I think.
Yeah, and everybody like values their players like more highly than the rest of the league does, and more highly than you value like other players. So like I think for like in comparison to like a lot of other leagues that like I feel like a lot of leagues have trouble trading. Like I don't think that's like a major problem with ours.
Yeah, I made
Yeah.
7 this year.
I mean one.
That's a good bit. I think I made none.
Yeah, you made none. You and Austin were the only teams that made 0 trades. That's actually kind of surprising to me. I feel like you and Austin are usually pretty active.
Yeah. I think it's like I think like one of the biggest things about trades is just like being able to go, like you gotta make sure you're like just active. Like you gotta be extremely active and like talking them up, like and talking about the players and like discussing it with people.
Yeah. More of them are gonna fall through than get accepted in any
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. You also have to have like an idea. Like I think a big thing is like with the way my team was at least, like I didn't really like I just needed flexes. And like I guess I could have like traded a stud for like more depth, but sometimes you have to have like an idea of like what you want to do to be
Yeah.
able to like okay, what am I gonna go after like in a trade or whatnot.
Yeah, I would say almost always the way I approach making trades is I say like I generally am like shooting for a need. So I'll be like, oh, I need like, somebody I can play in my flex. But then like my next approach is like, what do I have to give up? And then who needs that? And that's like generally the way I found. So it's like for a lot of this year, I had Pitts and Taysom, who were both like I felt like tight ends that I could play, but like were like maybe top half of the league. So I was trying to like go around to the league and try to trade one of those 2 guys for a team that needed a tight end for like whatever I could get from them. I don't think it actually panned out, but I offered a lot of trades like that.
Yeah. I would say there's like a question for y'all. What are some of the because kind of like a year-end question, what is some stuff like while it's fresh in your mind and not like 5 months from now that like what's like the number one rule if you have one that you maybe would want to change, or what's like something you think about introducing like at least to a vote?
I think me and Parker have talked about this a lot or a little bit. I think it would be interesting to mess around with like the point scoring with with half PPR versus do we want to reward first downs? Like do we want to change half PPR? I wouldn't want to make a reception worth more, but Parker likes to send videos a lot to our friend group of what each equals the same amount of fantasy points, and it's like a hard-earned 10-yard run or a little like 5-yard out route that like the receiver does like no work. So I think it'd be interesting to mess around with that. I can't think of like a ton of other stuff. Parker has like write stuff down throughout the year.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you asked that question, Zach, because I don't get to generally address this except outside of winter meetings. But of course, I'm the one who always, I think every year in winter meetings, I always come in with like a whole bunch of things, and I'm like, oh, we should try this, and then for the most part, Joe and Dan are like, yeah, that's a terrible idea. But I think so. The number one for me that I was gonna like actually push on this year was I would like to go back to a 6-man bench, because we've had a 5-man bench now for a while, and I think it's pros and cons. I like it because it gives you more options on the waiver wire. Like you said, it's already hard enough to find people to play that like sometimes you can get a plug and play. But I do feel like 5 is a little tight with how many starters we have, sometimes with bye weeks. Like there are weeks where you could legitimately have 6 guys on a bye and you have to drop someone just to fill your lineup. So I think that's one that I don't know. I go both ways on. The other more, I guess, bold things, the scoring, like Joe said, is something that we could always talk about. But I don't feel strongly about that. I would love to, and I think one of these years we will up the dues again. Because for a long time we didn't play for any money, and now we play like $25 per person. I just feel like now that we're like, for the most part, everyone's like has probably like a pretty stable job and can like actually afford to pay $50. I think that would just just
it gives you more
a little
things
bit more
you can
invested.
do.
We've been doing the league for 12 years. There's really no reason to still be doing. We're all in our late 20s.
And I do think like it is nice that people care even without the money. Like
yeah, for sure. But like basically every league, I would say at a minimum does $50.
Yeah,
Like,
well, like the money too, like it not necessarily like will mean like if people care or not, but allows you to do some more fun things. So like just because you're taking whatever you add, like raise it to, you're doing that by 12. So
Parker wants to like reinvest it into like the jackets and everything.
yeah, so like you can do like I've looked into like for other stuff. I've looked into like championship rings, which is pretty cool. And then what you can do too is like you can go back and like take a certain amount of the dues each year and like pay towards like purchasing rings like like for past like everyone in the past has already won, but
Yeah.
also like you can have fun things like one year in one league I did that was pretty fun was we did like I forgot what we called it, but like or like hot potato, like basically like whoever drafts last in the draft starts with it, and then if they lose, the other person has it, and it can just change hands each week, and then like whoever has it at the end of the year, wins something or something like that.
Yeah.
There were things like that, and then in terms to talk about the scoring systems, I think the biggest thing, like when thinking about all the different, like many different options they have nowadays, is to always remember like I personally think like the most important thing is to take out the variance. Like you want to try to make it the less variance, the less like luck like involved.
Right. Because there's already too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like one thing is not to necessarily add like pointless like bonus point things and things like that, but to just try to like a big reason I like full PPR is because I think it lessens the importance of a touchdown. Like yeah, touchdowns are
No,
still
I
good.
agree with that. But yeah, that's why I wanted to change the half initially.
Yeah, because it's like because I know like in standard, it's like if you don't get touchdowns, like you're not gonna be able to win. Like it's just too difficult because you're not being able to put up enough points.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that like Jamal Williams is like outrageously overvalued, even in our league, because all he does is score like 1 yard rushing touchdowns, and he's
Yeah.
like what did, I want to what he finished at this year. He had to be a top
Very
20
good.
running back. Let's see,
Easily.
running
Was
back
he
8.
not? Was he
Yeah.
not? Yeah, I was gonna say it was probably running back 1.
Yeah, and so I agree with that, the unpredictability standpoint. And then the other thing, this is like a sort of more controversial thing, even is I would love at some point to expand to 14. I think that we have people that would be interested, and I think that if we could ensure that we had enough people that were interested, it would just be more fun to have extra people in the league. But I'm also a little lukewarm on that because some of the same issues. Like I think if we went to 14, we might have to go back to 1 flex, just because you would be like really scraping the bottom of the barrel to find starters whenever 20 more players are now taken.
Yeah, like it'll be fun because you get to actually like in smaller leagues, like you don't like half the players that half these websites talk about that are like sleepers. You don't even really like legitimately get to play because they're
Yeah.
not actually like worth starting. So it can kind of make it more fun in that sense. But then you're starting to like, oh, my second flex scored 8 points and you scored 4 and I won because of that. Like it's really really kind of picking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like one last thing. I know I think I've shot this down before at a previous winter meeting and we had a vote on it and it didn't quite pass. But now that my playoff streak has ended, I do think it would be interesting to see if we wanted to do like the top 5 or change the tiebreaker, or if we wanted to do, the top 5 get in because of record, the 6th is the next most points. Like I think something like that could be interesting. But I don't know how much like support that would get across the league.
Yeah, I think the other one, like along that line, is that I've seen leagues do is you get 1 win per week for your matchup, and then 1 win for being
Yeah,
top 6 in scoring.
I don't really like that one as much.
I think it's like that's like a more obvious way to like try to reduce the variance. Like
Yeah.
that rule is basically just like trying to prevent something like Grant this year from happening,
Yeah.
because Grant would have gotten no wins for being in the top 6.
He just goes 1-1 every week.
Yeah.
He probably still would have made the playoffs. Anyway, all right. Well, Zach, I guess congratulations on your first Haney Cup. It's finally not changing hands between me and Morgan for a few years now. And hopefully the punishment will not be too hard on you. Although for Nick, it would have been a lot more difficult.
You can swing by any time and pick it up and then just drop it off Morgan.
I meant to ask, why did you not demand a rematch after your game got suspended?
I guess I should have. I didn't even like. Do we have the Would I've lost anyway?
You would have needed roughly 80 points between Steph Diggs and And
I think we had a case.
No,
of
I'm saying
Possibly
like
nothing.
if we did what Hunter and them did and just like threw it all out. Do we know?
yeah, I have no idea. I didn't calculate that out.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a mystery.
So Nick scored.
Didn't Saquon not play?
I think so. I don't think he.
Oh wait, they
played.
didn't do
I feel like
no,
you'd
never
have been
mind,
in
they
trouble.
don't count week 18 and stuff like that.
Yeah, no. But I think with Saquon not playing, Dak only got 8 points. He probably would have been in trouble.
Yeah. I probably would have lost. it.
Dalvin got 2. Yeah, I don't see how you could have won.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think we had the case of probability on that one to be made.
Let's see. Yeah, your team, you probably would have been like in the like 70-ish point range. So I don't like just from looking at the scores you guys got.
So
So,
he had Diggs and who else? Knox.
huh?
He had
No,
Diggs
I'm
and
just
who
talking
else?
about. I'm talking about if they played week 18.
No, but who did he have on the Monday night game besides Diggs?
Dawson Knox and Diggs.
Knox.
Yeah,
Like,
okay,
tried to-
Knox. That's
I
what
tried
thought.
to load up on like Sunday night and Monday night. Like I did have a little bit of hope, like when Mike Evans was going off on the bench, but then I forgot who it was. Like someone else decided to kind of score some late stuff and like really like I think in the like afternoon games or something.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I remember watching your game and like it never felt like it was gonna happen after Thursday. But like, if
Oh, it was
there was a
Devontae.
chance,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Devontae kind
That's
of
what it was.
slammed
For a
one
second
shot.
there, I was like, oh, maybe I have an outside chance because like my predictions weren't really moving, but like his were kind of.
Yeah, that's where you and Hunter got unlucky because Hunter played his defense against Jarrett Stidham, and you would figure, Devontae Adams without Jarrett Stidham would not be great, but turns out he was.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Zach, thank you for joining us, and everybody else, thank you all for tuning in all season. We missed a few here and there, but we enjoyed doing the podcast again this year, and we look forward to doing it again next year. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will talk to you next season.
This telecast is copyrighted by the NFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or of any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the NFL's consent is prohibited.